On tonight's Wales at 6, more support for children with additional learning needs. But will it make a real difference? Also on the programme.
Wales.
Just 2 years to rebuild the national side for the Rugby World Cup. But we now know who will lie in wait. Plus, exploring a poet's paradise. We take a peek behind the doors of a literary legends writing retreat.
And join me as I test the trend that's guaranteed to put a spring in your step.
Hello, good evening. Raising a child with additional learning needs can at times be extremely challenging. So to help learners and their families, the Welsh Government has announced a package of support, including an extra £8.2 million worth of funding. But will it make a real difference? Our national correspondent Rob Osborne has been looking at the issue in more detail.
This is Millie. She has additional learning needs, and her family fought to get her into the right school. It's a fight. They won. So Millie's in school and thriving by all accounts.
Yeah, she's doing brilliant.
That's why she's not here today. But it hasn't stopped her mum Rebecca fighting for other children in a similar situation.
Millie's actually one of the lucky children in the fact that she's had a diagnosis by the age of 5. She's very lucky. We only waited 2 years to have a diagnosis. And she's lucky, so let that sink in. 2 years waiting for a diagnosis. And I think what's crucial is, until you have that diagnosis, they cannot go to the correct provision. So if they need to go to an autistic unit for children with ASD, they cannot access that until they've had an official ASD diagnosis. So without that diagnosis, you're in limbo land waiting. So I think there's a massive crisis with the health boards, with a delay in getting the appropriate diagnosis through.
But as a parent, what would be the real help here? What would make the difference to families like yours?
So the real help for me is early intervention. It's preached everywhere. Early intervention is key. Early intervention is key. Well, where is this early intervention is my question, because Millie's 5 now and I have fought every single step of the way, as many parents do, to get their children in the right place.
At this school in Cardiff, the Welsh Government announced extra funding to help drive through ALN reforms. Also announced a new parent and carer toolkit, which provides a range of resources, including an explanation of how the system works and where support is available.
For parents to follow a systematic approach to getting the support that they need, as well as us as a school, I think it'll be a point of something that we can give our parents from the offset when we have those difficult conversations. You know, I think my child has ALN is a big statement to say, and then we as a school will be say, okay, then this is the support that we can offer, but here is the ALN toolkit.
But information is one thing. What many parents say they need is a diagnosis and then a school place. The Education Secretary says they're working on it.
We need to make sure there's more consistent delivery of our ALN legislation. We need to have that consistent understanding of the legislation so that no families are falling through the gaps.
Millie's got the support she needs, but there are plenty of other children out there still waiting. Rob Osborne, ITV News.
More than a third of Welsh Labour Senedd members have written to the Prime Minister accusing the UK government of rolling back on devolution. 11 members of the Senedd's Labour Party have signed the letter urging the UK government to move forward with the devolution of rail infrastructure, policing, justice and the Crown Estate. Well, Hamish Auskerry is in Cardiff Bay for us tonight. Hamish.
Well, John, this is quite awkward for the First Minister, as members of her own backbench asked her to criticise the UK government. We've seen Eluned Morgan and Sir Keir Starmer standing side by side in recent weeks, particularly over announcements, for example, in Ynys Môn over new nuclear. Colleagues in the Welsh Labour Senedd group, including the former Transport Minister Lee Waters and the former Counsel General Mick Antoniff, have now essentially accused ministers in Westminster of meddling in issues they say should be exclusively the responsibility of Welsh Government ministers. Their evidence, a programme of spending announced by the UK Government early this year called Pride in Place. It essentially gives more money to Welsh councils to spend on improving their communities, but they say it uses powers which don't respect the devolution. It is, at best, deeply insensitive, at worst, a constitutional outrage. That's the kind of language we got used to when there was a Conservative government in Westminster rather than two Labour governments working together.
And Hamish, what has the UK government had to say in response to all this?
Well, the UK government, John, says it's working hand in hand with the Welsh government to deliver real change for communities in Wales in partnership. A spokesperson told us this evening that Pride in Place, this programme in question, provides extra investment on top of the record funding we've already given to Wales as we make sure communities get what they deserve. The Welsh government says they've already raised this issue about those powers with the Prime Minister in recent days. But opposition parties have pounced on this letter, John. Plaid Cymru say it's extraordinary and a further sign that Labour in Wales are falling apart. The Welsh Liberal Democrats say they agree with the content of the letter, saying that Welsh programmes shouldn't be designed in Whitehall. But the Welsh Conservatives say they're the only party who don't want any more powers being passed from Westminster through to Welsh Government ministers. Those behind the letter say they don't want this to be seen purely as a rift in the party, but instead a matter of principle about protecting devolution, which was created under a Labour government. But ITV Wales understands that tonight there are some senior figures in the Labour Party in Wales who are very angry about the timing of this letter ahead of the British-Irish Council being hosted in Wales this week, and have questioned the motivation of those who have signed this letter. From all perspectives, I suspect this will be the talk of Cardiff Bay in the coming days. OK, Hamish Auskerry in Cardiff Bay, thanks very much indeed. And apologies for the problems with sound and picture on that report. A police officer is believed to have drowned in a harbour after going missing during a night out, an inquest has heard. Rehan Akhtar was a constable with South Wales Police and had been out in Bristol with friends on the 23rd of November. His body was recovered by divers the following morning. A politician who was suspended for 2 weeks because of a racial slur she made in 2023 has returned to the Senedd today. A Standards report found Reform UK's only Welsh Parliament member, Laura Ann Jones, made offensive comments about Chinese people in a private WhatsApp group. Jones apologised for what she calls regrettable comments. She was previously a Welsh Conservative MS until she defected to Reform UK this July. Food banks in Wales say they're bracing themselves for another difficult winter. The colder months are typically the busiest time for centres, with thousands of people across the country using them for essentials. Those who are able to help are being asked for their support this Christmas to help those in desperate need, as Joanne Gallagher now reports.
By the end of this week, these shelves in the Colwyn Bay hub will be empty. Tom runs this independent food bank with money from grants and donations. He's helping more people than ever.
We started off with a little shelf on the food bank, and now it's progressed to a bigger shelf. We're seeing more and more families who are not only on benefits but who are working as well, having to access a food bank because cost of living, bills, they just can't afford everything.
By the time I arrived this morning, 2 people had already been in looking for food. Nobody wants to speak to us, but Tom said you'd be surprised who's asking for help.
We've had teachers, care workers, hospital staff who are working and they've had to access food banks because the wages that they get at the minute is just not covering all the bills.
For those needing help, they have to get a referral. It's sent through to volunteers here at the hub who go through a list, working out who lives in the households, and then they bag up food for them.
We hope that with the donations that we're given, we're able to make up a healthy food parcel that will always have some fruit and some vegetables and other things and treats if we're making bags up for children.
Retired nurse Chris says the benefit system isn't always the safety net people think.
Universal credit is both a blessing and a monster, because if, for instance, somebody does some overtime one month, their universal credit will get cut for the following month in anticipation of them earning the same again.
Are there any people that really stick in your mind doing this volunteering?
There was one mum with an 8-week-old baby in the last couple of weeks. She had an 8-week-old baby. She had literally no money. She had no nappies. She had no food for the baby, and that was due to a benefits mix-up.
In a statement, the Welsh Government says it recognises these are challenging times and say since 2019 we've invested over £29 million in community food organisations to help tackle food insecurity, including direct support for food banks. Back in Colwyn Bay, volunteers say they're always here to help.
We've had people coming in who have used the food bank for the first time, and they've been stood there and they've been crying because of embarrassment. But they don't need to be embarrassed. No one should go to bed hungry.
Support here in this community will continue. Joanne Gallagher, ITV News, Colwyn Bay.
Oh, still to come. Ruth, what have you got for us tonight?
Well, something for everyone on the forecast front, which frankly is never good news. But if all of this miserable weather is getting you down, Caddy, you have just the thing to lift us up this evening, quite literally. Absolutely. Well, I'm about 6'7" in these special boots, and I think I'm going to be reaching a little bit higher. But join me later and I'll be learning about kangaroo jumping.
But first tonight, Wales' fate for the 2027 Rugby World Cup has been revealed. And yes, you've guessed it. They'll be facing the old rivals, England. Matt was watching the draw as it happened and is here now. Matt, a World Cup does seem a long way off given the state of things.
Well, it does, John, yeah, and as you mentioned, given recent results, it's probably not an altogether bad thing, but nevertheless, it will be on us before we know it. So let's take a closer look at who Wales will face in Australia. A new expanded tournament means there will be 4 teams in the group rather than 5, and your eyes will be drawn straight here. Wales will face England at the next World Cup. The last time the two sides met at a global gathering was in 2015, when Wales famously won at Twickenham. But now Steve Borthwick's side are on an 11-game winning run and seem to be building quite nicely. Wales are the second seeds in the group courtesy of their win over Japan last month, and next up it's Tonga. Now, Wales have never lost to them in the past, but that is guaranteed to be a bruising encounter. And rounding off the pool is Zimbabwe, ranked 24th in the world. They're the second lowest ranked side in the tournament, and Wales have won all 3 fixtures against them previously. Now, an expanded tournament has brought a new structure. The top 2 finishers in the group will go through, plus the 4 best third-placed finishers as well. And in a boost for Wales, they've ended up in a favourable side of the draw. It means if they finish in the top 2 of their group, they would avoid a top 5 side in the world rankings until the quarter-final stage, barring an upset involving South Africa. Now, in short, things could have gone a lot worse. And earlier this afternoon, I caught up with Wales boss Steve Tandy and started by asking him about that mouth-watering clash with England.
Yeah, it's exciting, and obviously playing England is one of the biggest games in the calendar anyway, but then doing it in the World Cup is even more enhanced. So yeah, it'll be an amazing opportunity for everyone.
And what will your ambitions be for that tournament? We're 2 years out, you know where you are now after the autumn campaign. Yeah. What are the ambitions for that tournament?
I think it's too far away to go exactly what you want to be, but I think every tournament we've got to be better now. So we've got a start point, we know exactly where we are from the autumn, but just making sure when we get to that World Cup we're even more competitive than we are now and where we believe we can be, and going there with excitement, and also being a team that people seeing the growth of us over the next 2 years, and people, this is a team that they don't want to play.
Yeah, and obviously now after the autumn, you know, the result on the weekend, 73-0, what does it tell you about where Wales are as a squad this campaign?
There's an element of 900 caps to 300 of the weekend. Lots of boys haven't played rugby for a while. There's obviously that gap, but it's the only way we're going to bridge that gap is by playing more games, getting aligned, getting experiences. I know we're a small nation, but it's making sure now that how we learn the lessons and learn from the really good stuff we've done through the autumn.
Obviously, I'm sure you'll have seen on the day after the game, Chairman Richard Collier-Key would use the word embarrassed by that result. Was that a bit harsh, or do you feel like that was fair?
Look, I don't know the context it was said in. For me, no rugby player loves losing. No rugby player, you see that scoreboard, is ever going to be happy. The one thing I'll never question is the boys' effort. And I know what they put into that game, and we've come up against a world-class team where we've fallen short in a lot of areas, but I think that isn't a lack of effort. That's, we spoke earlier, it's about experience, it's about exposure, but ultimately everyone looks at the scoreboard and feels we know how much of a proud nation we are, and losing that sort of scoreline at home is never going to be something that anyone's going to be happy about.
Off the back of this campaign, what gives you hope, and what gives the nation, do you think should give the nation hope that things can start moving in the right direction in the next 2 years?
I think the players, I think there is an exciting group of players. They're young, and again, you see what it means to them, and I think there's been enough against New Zealand, and I thought that was the best game of the autumn for us around that sort of performance, and again, I think that could have been closer. They're amazing men as well. They're young, but they want to learn. Like, you see them every time they come back in, they want to be better. Like, straight after the game, how can we grow? How can we be better? And again, it goes hand in hand with everything. Us as a nation, everyone getting behind what we're trying to do, and the players obviously linking into the community and the regional game will hold us in good stead. And that's why probably I feel really excited and optimistic of the future for our team.
So the countdown to the Rugby World Cup now begins. Wales will know who they face. And John, it's now time for them to find some form.
Fingers crossed. Matt, thanks very much indeed. You're watching Wales at 6, a reminder of our top story tonight. A new system to help families with children and additional learning needs has been announced by the Welsh Government. Ministers say the new parents and carer toolkit will make it easier to access support and understand their rights. The Welsh Government says a further £8.2 million in funding will go to councils this year to help them deliver ALN reforms. And still to come this evening.
Coming up on the ITV Evening News, the war zone conditions of hospital corridor care. No privacy, no dignity. New footage shows patients left for days, with some even forced to be examined in full view of passers-by. A paedophile nursery worker pleads guilty to sexually abusing children. Questions tonight over his vetting. 5 days without water. Thousands in Kent are told the supply's back on, but needs to be boiled.
I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away.
And spreading the Christmas spirit through a Ring doorbell camera, the singing Scottish schoolboys. Well, do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
It's well worth hanging around to see that. Now, clinging to the coastline of Larne in Carmarthenshire, Dylan Thomas's boathouse is one of Wales' most iconic landmarks. It's where the great writer penned some of his most famous poems and now serves as a memorial to his life and work. Lewis Rhys-Jones has been to find out more about the place Thomas called home.
We really are spoilt for choice when it comes to stunning views here in Wales, but I'd argue that the Abertaf here in Larne is probably up there with some of the best, and many of the visitors that come to look at this estuary would describe it as inspiring. And that's exactly what it was to the famous poet who once lived here. Yes, I am talking about Dylan Thomas, and today we've brought you to his boathouse to take a good look around. This quaint and cosy little home attracts visitors throughout the year, offering a glimpse into the world of a man considered to be one of the greatest Welsh poets of all time.
They moved into the boathouse in 1949, but previously they'd lived in Larne several years before that in a place called Seaview, and Dylan never actually owned anywhere, So, but he loved Larne so much, but he would move around. But then he heard by the grapevine that there was a house for sale, and he had a very wealthy patron called Margaret Taylor, and he told her about it, so she came to check it out, and that is this house. So she actually bought it so he could live here, and then so he moved in 1949 and lived here, and this is the last place he lived, so until 1953. Dylan had a special love of this place from being young, because across the water over there is a place called Fernhill, which is a farm that was owned by his aunt and uncle. So this area was really, deep in his heart.
This heron-priested shore was the view Dylan Thomas would look out on every day for inspiration, from the comfort of his famous writing shed just a short walk away from the boathouse.
Dylan Thomas was a character. He was somebody who had an inner shyness, but who let his love of life, his fascination with the world around him, with the natural world and with all the different kinds of people who he met, he used his works to really express his love and interest in those characters and in that world around him. Under Milkwood is perhaps one of his most famous ones. This is certainly where he finished it, at this very desk in this very writing shed, which is quite amazing to think about, because that is a work which has been loved by the great and the good for, the last sort of 50, 70 years or so. Even President Jimmy Carter loved the works of Dylan Thomas, and Under Milkwood was one of his favourites. So yes, this really is such an important bit of history that we're standing in.
It continues to be a popular place among lovers of history, literature, as well as nature. And in such a tranquil corner of West Wales, perhaps there's little wonder. Lewis Rhys-Jones, ITV News.
Lovely. And you can see Lewis's full report on the little boathouse on ITVX. You can find us by choosing categories, then news, and select Wales. You can catch up with the latest news and all our favourite programmes like Coast and Country and Sharp End. It's the same on your phone or smart TV. Well, it's another chilly day out there, but Ruth has something to get the blood pumping and warm us up.
I do indeed, and I can assure you that whilst this has absolutely nothing at all to do with the weather, it will certainly put a spring in your step, or even a bounce in your boots. Kangoo jumping, and not kangaroo jumping, is the new thing in fitness. And Caddy, you are putting your best foot forward for us this evening.
Absolutely, and if I stand still for too long, I think I might topple over. But yes, exercise is good for us. We all know that, don't we? But it can sometimes be a bit repetitive. But this does not seem boring. Christina,
at all, isn't it?
Kangoo jumping, what is it?
Hi, thank you very much for having us. Kangoo jump is a low-impact fitness workout. As you can see, we are in these amazing rebound shoes that they absorb up to 80% to impact on your joints. So it's a high intensity that is really, really good on your joints.
And when did you get involved with all of this then?
9 years ago. I discovered it 9 years ago.
Wow.
I trained myself in Ireland, so since then I'm doing classes in Cardiff.
And was there anything like this already?
No. So it's been out for over 30 years, and we've been. It's been growing so much in UK in the last 5 years.
Well, do you know what? I'm quite surprised, because when I put on these boots to start with, 3 of you had to help me stand up.
Yes.
But actually now...
And now you're so confident, isn't it?
Confident.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Good. But you're not alone here, Christina, because Maria, your colleague, is here.
Yes.
Maria, I'm going to pull you from your rigorous jumping. Come over here for me, Maria. There we go.
Yes.
So how did you get involved with Kangoo jumping? Because you work as an instructor, don't you?
Yeah, so I am an instructor. I've been an instructor for 4 years. So I remember my very first class, I think it was about 10 years ago, which was back home. A friend of mine took me and I just fell in love from the first time I attended. Then obviously moving to the UK, I joined Christina's class and then I just love it.
You just fell in love.
Yes.
Well, I'm falling in love myself this evening, and there are lots of other people that are quite used to kangaroo jumping, like Lorinda here. Hello, Lorinda.
Hello.
I did say I'd pick on you, didn't I?
Yes.
Well, you're looking like a pro, but it's about more than just the exercise, isn't it? It's a bit like a community.
It's like a community. It's like a family. It's the kangaroo jump family.
Your kangaroo jump family.
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, I did say I would get involved, because why would I come and not be a part of the class? Right, bit of tips for a beginner like myself.
Yeah, so we always start with easy moves. Everybody knows a hamstring curl. Yes, that's a hamstring curl. So that's what we're going to do. So you bring it up, it goes down, and then the other leg.
Right, well.
Okay,
I'm
let's
about
go.
as coordinated as a turtle, so this is going to go very well.
3, 2,
Right.
come on.
And go. Other side, right. Amazing.
You're doing well.
Well, I'm already out of breath, so that's a good sign, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Good exercise, good
it is
cardio.
a good exercise.
Yeah.
See, you can feel
I'm
it.
feeling my heart going.
Yes.
But I feel like people at home are going to judge my cardio levels at the moment, because I'm already out of breath. So we'll go back to the studio.
Caddy, I can assure you we are all out of breath in the studio watching that.
I want a
got
pair
it
for
sussed.
Christmas.
We worked it out, didn't we? It's that, and then
we
it's
sort
that,
of-
and then it's that,
Yeah.
and then a bit of that. I did some homework on these boots because I think they're epic, and I
Go
always
on.
wear boots. But from standing still, if you jump upwards in those kangaroo
Right.
boots, you can go 70 centimetres. So
Goodness.
I'm thinking that's kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to demonstrate. And if you go forward that way, you can go 2.5 metres.
Wow.
That's quite epic, isn't it? And I really fancy those.
You need a good bit of ceiling above you, wouldn't
If
you?
I come into work wearing those, don't laugh, OK? You're not allowed to laugh or say anything. I think they're quite trendy. Fancy a pair of those. Don't fancy doing a 3-minute workout quite like that, though. So we're all out of breath just watching it. Now then, one thing I can tell you about is the weather, because I'm sure you'll have noticed that actually this week got off to a pretty grotty start, but today has been pretty decent. We actually saw some sunshine. Sunshine and showers very much the order of today and actually the next few days. But tomorrow, we've got a little bit of a cold air influence starting to show, and that means that over the hills and mountains, there could be a wintry element to the weather. But don't panic, nothing too disruptive. And by the time we get to the end of the week, temperatures will start to feel just a little bit milder. It's all thanks to our friend, the jet stream, that bit of blue air coming down from the Arctic, which when it meets low pressure and frontal systems does bring a decidedly wintry feel to our weather. But then guess what? It is winter after all, so nothing abnormal about cold, frosty nights at this time of the year either. But there is an awful lot of wet weather to come. And as I mentioned, by the end of the week, we lose that blue air, the Arctic air, something slightly milder. But if you are making plans for this coming weekend, I'm sorry to say it's about to turn warmer, but very wet and very windy too.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather.
Well, it's still quite blustery out there at the moment, and the showers that have plagued coastal areas will continue for the next few hours too. If anything, actually gathering pace and tracking their way northwards and eastwards by the early hours of tomorrow morning. Careful on the roads yet again. Could be some sharp showers for some, so not, as I said, particularly pleasant. Now, the winds are key. They will remain quite brisk overnight, and actually that stops the temperatures from dropping quite as low as they did last night. This morning we woke to frost. We also woke to some rather dense pockets of fog too. It should be fog-free tomorrow morning again because of that breeze. General lows of around 4 or 5 degrees. So cold, but not too cold. A chill as we wake to tomorrow morning then. And again, we'll see further showers, that band of rain just tracking northwards and eastwards. And tucking in behind that band of wet weather, we'll see more showers, yes, more sunshine and showers as the day progresses, and perhaps over the hills and mountains, Eryri and maybe down across the Banner Brycheiniog. Some of these showers could have a little bit of a wintry mix, all very normal for this time of the year, maybe some hail too. But in between those showers, there will be plenty of dry and sunny spells. But the temperatures tomorrow, I think, taking a little bit longer to recover. So looking at highs of around 7 or 8 degrees in Celsius, slightly fresher wind direction. As we head through Thursday evening then, under clear skies, because of that change in wind direction, the temperatures will drop. So likely to see frosty conditions for much of Wales through Thursday night and into Friday. You can see the map turning blue. However, there is a slight fly in the ointment. By the time we get to the end of the week, the winds change direction again. And I'm sorry to say that will blow in a band of very heavy rain that'll track across Wales during the course of Friday. It will, however, feel a little milder.
TUI sponsors ITV Cymru Wales weather.
And apparently Caddy is absolutely fine after doing that marathon on her Kangoo boot. So fair play to her.
You were out of breath.
I know.
That's it. Carl Edwards will be back with the late update. That's after the ITV News at 10. But from Ruth and me and all the team, thanks for watching.